Hello, hello, hello. Here we are. We've got him on. He's qualified. Who are you, John RedNose Simmons? How are you, mate?
I'm good, Kev. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you, mate. Thanks for coming on. And listen, I don't want to waste any time, John. I want to get stuck into this with you because I'm gonna. This is gonna be not painful for me, but it's gonna be really good for you. And I can't wait to see your face with some of these questions. See?
Oh, you reckon it's going to be good for me? I've got a funny feeling this may not be that good for me,
No,
actually.
I think it's going to be really good for you.
I was
So
seeing
that's
so much
why.
stuff on Twitter today about a certain day,
No, well, we could get to that at the end. We could get to that
all,
at the end.
all
But
grainy and that.
but you see, the great thing about Who Are You, John, is it isn't having a go at you. It's your experiences. So
Does
this
that
is the
mean I've
key.
got to talk about Liverpool non-stop for the
Yeah,
next however long?
yeah, that's
I'm
right.
in. I'm
And
in.
yeah, and I'll host it. So there you go.
You host it.
Yeah,
That's
and
even
I'll
better.
host it. So
But
so
normally you can walk out of the bar or out of the room or
yes, exactly. There's no way away now. There's no way
captain.
out. No way out. So, Judd, first question for you.
Yeah.
Could you remember your first game at Anfield? You know, a lot
Um,
of people don't remember because
no,
it's a long time ago. But could you remember, or whether it's your
I'm
first
an
game
old
at
bloke now.
Anfield? Sorry,
I'm an old bloke now as well, so it's a long time
a
ago.
long time it is.
Do you know what, Kev? The first game I can remember, I don't know if it was my first game, but round about 78,
Yeah,
my dad took me to Anfield. No, it was later, about 80. My dad took me to Anfield and we saw Liverpool beat Norwich 4-1.
right.
And I remember Hansen got a screamer from outside the
Really?
box. Yeah, and Terry Mack got one as well, I think, from a free kick. And we beat them 4-1. But so that was my first one at Anfield. And all I remember about that is I remember the ground and I remember the noise. I must have been about 13, something like that. But I remember arriving at Lime Street
Yeah.
and all the car, the noise and the fuss of getting to the game. That was my first experience going to Anfield. But I think before that, a couple of years before that, I went to Spurs Liverpool
Right. In London.
in London, and I think we were expecting a bit of a goal fest because I seem to remember I went up there and my dad was saying we're going to pump this lot today, absolutely pump. And it was only afterwards actually I looked back up. The reason he was saying it was I think it was earlier that season we'd beaten them 7-0.
Right.
And
I remember that game.
so he was going, "Don't worry, son, we'll lump this lot up." They were sort of like, but it was a 0-0 draw.
Oh, jeez.
So it
Oh,
wasn't.
jeez.
No, I
Well,
went there a lot. Actually. I went to White Lane and see Liverpool a lot because while I was living down in London,
yeah.
that was one of the games that Dad and I used to go to fairly regularly to see them. So I saw Suey smashing Graham Roberts up at
Well, we're going to get on. So, who was your favourite player? Did you just name him there, John? Back then.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because probably like you with the Arsenal and other things, you have a whole load of players that are your favourite players, don't you? That you look back on. But it's interesting when you look
So
back.
tell me then, John, who are your players then?
Well,
Who are your favourites?
I think the very first Liverpool player that really got my imagination was Steve Highway.
Yeah.
So I really was into him. Thought I loved him. Thought he was a fabulous player. And then, like everyone who supports Liverpool, Dalglish was right up there. So it was absolutely up there. And also, for some bizarre reason, because I never played in goal, I was a massive fan of Ray Clements. So those were my top three at the time, really: Highway, Clement, and Kenny, because he was Kenny. I've got to say, my other player that sticks out in my mind wasn't a Liverpool player that was one of my favourites, was Trevor Brooking, right back in those days.
Yeah.
Because he's very elegant, seemed quite cool and all that sort of stuff. So they were the ones. Then later on in life, non-Liverpool was Rocky. And I think I've had this conversation with you many times. I think Rocky was probably, if you look back, my favourite non-Liverpool player who I'd have loved to have played for Liverpool. Because I think he'd have fitted into that team in that era. That
Perfectly.
Yeah. So I was a big soft spot for Rocky, and sort of abroad, Baggio and Mateus and Zico I liked. But my favourite of all time, Liverpool and art, Graham Souness.
Graham Souness.
My favourite Liverpool player of all time. When I was a kid, I was a striker. And I always used to want to play in midfield because I used to want to be like Souness.
Well, Suey left a lot of bodies, didn't he? He left a lot of
I
bodies.
used to love that. And do you remember the old all I remember was midweek sports special, whatever it was called.
Sports special, yeah.
I used to listen to that a lot because we were always in the European Cup. You may not have bothered listening.
Yeah, oh, cheers, mate. Cheers. Hey,
we were,
listen, never mind that. I remember, could you remember that there was a trilogy of 4 games of replays? Liverpool Arsenal replays, it was constantly.
I remember one where I think, wasn't that an FA Cup one? And I think we went 1-0 up very early and you got an equaliser later on, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Sunderland maybe scored in that, but I think Dalglish scored. And you won it, didn't you, on about the 4-3 player?
Yeah, we won it, but it was crazy. One of my best mates back then, Gary Randall, his family were like Scousers in Brixton, so we used to go and listen to his uncle Julian. Used to have all the Liverpool badges and all that kind of stuff. So I used to go around there and listen to the radio, and Arsenal scored, I'd be jumping. Liverpool scored, they'd be jumping. But it was great times back then, John. It really was.
Sitting outside, I used to have to drop my sister off to a music lesson, and my dad and I used to go together and used to put midweek sports special on in the car. And I remember in the build-up to this particular European match, and I may get the names wrong, but there'd been a guy mouthing off all week, a Spanish guy, and I think it was Goycochea. Would that have been back then? I think it would have been around that sort of thing.
Goycochea might have
something, Bilbao or whatever, but he was, whoever he was there hard now.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And he was mouthing off all week, and I can't remember who it was, mouthing off all week. And of course, you didn't see things on the TV, and all we heard on the radio was, after about 20 minutes, there was this sort of like, there's a corner, and then the commentator goes, oh dear, he goes, Goycochea, he's covered with blood. He goes, as soon as he's going to be standing quite close to him.
He's left a bit on him. Oh, reduce.
He was as cynical as anything soon. He never got sent off. He used to just do them on the quiet.
Yeah, well, listen, silent assassins, they're the ones, mate. They're the ones. Hey, Simo, so just to capture the era as well, what does the boot room mean to you? Because it means something to a lot of different things to a lot of Liverpool fans and stuff. What does it mean to you, mate?
I suppose because of my age as well, the boot room was prevalent. It was in control, really, in that son when I was growing up. That it almost feels like it was the father of Liverpool. It was the beginning of everything, the modern Liverpool. It started everything. But it had this sort of feeling a bit like the Kremlin Politburo, because it was so successful. It always came up with an answer. None of the secrets ever came out of there. A bit like the old, a bit like the Russian white, red wall. And it had this mystique about it that, it kept recreating success, kept finding these great players, kept, mysteriously making these happen. And actually, you'd see a picture of these old fellas who look like your uncle, and they plotted the whole thing. Great football brains who plotted the whole thing through. So I think, real mistake around it. And actually, at the end of the boot room kind of coincided with the end of our dominance. So, I think, I don't think you could probably ever. I don't think you could deliberately put that back together again. It only ever happened. It happened by chance. But I think it magical times and real air of mystery around it as well.
Well, I think this next question, John, is going to be one of your sweet ones. Yeah. What was it like being a red nose in the 70s and 80s when you dominated? What was it like?
Excellent, thank you.
Unbearable for some, I'm sure.
Absolutely unbearable for some, but brilliant. I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable. And, I'd always say to people now who support a team that go through any period of dominance, make the most of it, because you do end up taking it a little bit for granted. I think if, without going back onto it, but if we win the league this year, if things hadn't happened the way they had and we just gone on and won the league, I think in a way that's sweeter than the leagues that we were winning when I was growing up, because we kind of expected it. It was disappointment when we came second. I was reading the other day, I think, for about 12 years or so, we came first or second every season. So, and those seconds were a disappointment. I think Bob Paisley actually said, what's it been like having all this unbroken success? He said, well, we've had some dreadful years. Some years come second.
Yeah, dreadful.
But that's what it was like, 4 milk cups in a row and all the, all the European cups that were coming in. You had a feeling that you were just entitled to it and it would happen. I don't mean that in a negative way, but of course, when something's happening all the time, you expect it, and it does have less of a buzz than if it's out of the blue. But it was magical. You were the kings, and you walked around. You had bragging rights all the time, and it was a wonderful time, and such wonderful players as well.
John, I've got to say about that. watching. Obviously, I'm an Arsenal fan, but watching. Obviously, I was envious. Obviously, I was envious
Yeah,
because you have to be envious. But the standard of that Liverpool team and squad, the football club, was so high
yeah.
that there was only ever going to be a couple of teams maybe you could even challenge you maybe one year and then they fall away. You know what I mean? So it was,
And the squads were small, weren't they, Kevin? I think the secret Liverpool had about keeping that dominance going was, and I think we hear it a lot now, and I think Liverpool are in a position where they've got to look at this now, is they seem to change the players at the right time. There was never wholesale changes. A player went and you sometimes think, well, I think they've got a bit left. But who did you ever hear leave Liverpool and go on and do anything, really? You
yeah,
know, they were always changed for someone who came in. It was one component of the bigger part, made it work. And I think that's what was so clever about making that work. But what it meant was you had a very small squad, or sort of team of players that played nearly every week. And when you look back and watch some of those teams, and we think now we created this fast one-touch football, that's what Liverpool were doing. They're fizzing the ball about, you
yeah,
know, at a pace that was very difficult to keep up with, and pinpoint passing with some great players, you know, like Dalglish and Souness and Ray Kennedy, people like that. You know, they fit into most teams now. They were world-class players, but they were created into world-class players by that team.
but John, there's a lot of there's a lot of unsung heroes
Stevie
who,
Nicol.
well, but there's a lot of unsung heroes who the club paid peanuts for, who
Yeah,
got developed through the boot room system, through the academy, or through the reserve team, and they made the
yeah.
first team, and it looked like they'd never played anywhere else.
Yeah, you know, let's face it. You know, you look at, you know, what was it? Clements bought from Scunthorpe. Well, no one could have known. Now we look back and you think, well, Clements was always a world beater, but he wasn't. He was bought from Keegan bought from Scunthorpe. You know,
Yeah,
you've got players like that. Partick, I think, sold us Hanson. You know,
yeah,
and Souness, I think, was a bit of a not a failure, but wasn't exactly pulling up trees at Middlesbrough and Spurs, and developed into possibly the best midfielder in the world at the time. Yeah, you look back and you think those people were always like that, but they weren't. I
yeah,
mean, that
true.
was very, very clever buying and very clever coaching.
Yeah, but you know, you mentioned the name Steve Nicol. I thought as a utility man,
Oh,
he
that
was
bloke didn't have to
unbelievable.
do it.
He was unbelievable.
He could
He
play
really
virtually
was.
play anywhere.
Yeah, you know, I had the privilege playing against him. Wow, he could play anywhere, couldn't he? He could play striker,
He could play striker, and certainly he did play. He must have played right back, left back, midfield, everything for Liverpool. I
centre
mean,
half,
you know, I mean,
everywhere.
the
Definitely the across the back four and across the midfield he's played for sure.
and I think you've always said to me, a player that a bit later on in that era, but a player that I even didn't realise, it's only when you speak to ex-players you get the sense of, I don't think Ronnie Whelan has got he gets the kudos that he deserves. But I think speaking to you, you reckon he was right up there.
He was top class, mate. Trust me, he was top
And
class.
a bit of a nasty little.
Well, he was an Irishman who you didn't think nothing of him, but put your foot in. Don't worry, he'll snap you in two. Don't worry about that. You had to be that way back then. You had to have that bit of devil in you. And boy, the Irish man had it, man, Roddy Wheeler. But you know what? I see Roddy now. He does commentary and stuff. He's a lovely, lovely man. Great guy. And Jim Beglin as well. Jim Beglin's another guy. Top people, mate. Top people.
And if you look, you were saying the other day, I think it was I saw Graham Souness actually interviewed. They were saying about if you look back at a lot of those Liverpool clips, Kev, it's interesting actually because I then did it afterwards and how many attacks they were talking about why Liverpool fell off a cliff. After 1990 and whatever.
Yeah.
And Dalglish going was a big issue, whatever. Souness, I think it was saying he thought the bigger issue was Hanson retiring. Because you look at how many attacks Hanson started, bringing the ball out of defence, launching attacks deep into the, over the halfway line before he gave a perfect pass away. That he set the rhythm of that whole team.
Well, he was actually, he would fit in perfectly now, Alan Hansen, wouldn't he? You know, ball playing centre half.
Yeah, he would do.
But you know what, John? He hardly ever got done. He hardly ever got beat or lost it.
He wasn't blisteringly fast at all, was he? It was all position.
Reading, he read the game so. And again, you know, I'm lucky enough I played against some of these guys, man, and you know, it was like, wow, I'm playing against legends here. You know, it was great for me coming through.
You and the big Arsenal boys retired him really when he came.
Well,
in. An exhibition against you or something and said, "That's me out."
Well, I think that was soon as we played.
And
Yeah, Souness was in the midfield and he tried his bully tactics and it didn't work and he just said that's my time. But to be fair to Suey, because it happens to us all, John, as you know, it does. There has to be a changing of the guard. These youngsters get bigger, quicker, stronger, fitter,
Absolutely.
and that actually leads me on to the next question, John. What's your thoughts regarding the Arsenal challenge in '89? Because we know from '86, George Graham came in '86, and there wasn't really a challenge until '89. And would you believe? Obviously, you won the title the next year. Would you believe it'll be 30 years since you guys win the title? Because really, it's your title this year. It's going to finish. It's going to get going. But would you ever believe back then it would be 30 years, John? Let's take the Arsenal challenge and then...
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back, I think the Arsenal challenge was an interesting one because I think that team was a superb team. And actually, sometimes in your life you support your team and you have a team that you quite like
a second team kind of thing.
Well, I had a bit of a soft spot for that Arsenal team until the end of '89, and I went off and fast at the end of '89. But no, I did. I had a bit of a soft spot for them, and I really like George Graham. And I know I've had conversations with you, and I know the respect you held. George Graham.
Yeah.
So I thought they were a superb team, and I thought it was a real challenge. It was interesting. In those days, Kev, United weren't really a threat. It was Arsenal that came through. And I've got to be honest with you, and maybe people are looking at it differently, but I always think when I see the celebrations to the end of '89, when that was almost the culmination of your challenge, where you actually took the title really off and won the title. I think it's bittersweet for Liverpool fans. I mean, of course it's bitter because we lost the title, but people forget how soon after Hillsborough that was. That was a pretty horrible time, and I remember watching it, and it was very emotional, drained. And I think you told me, Kev, that you were in the change room, and George Graham actually said they looked shocked. They were still attending funerals, I think, the week before that game. So I think there's an element of that challenge was so real from Arsenal. But you've got to remember, we'd had challenges from Forest and repelled them. They'd had their couple of years and then we got rid of them. Ipswich, I think, came through and we had a go at them, got rid of them. Villa had given it a go, got rid of them. And I think my view was, we'll get rid of Arsenal. Arsenal will come through. And I actually think there was a general feeling, what a wonderful day for Arsenal fans and everything. It was crushing for us that day you snatched the title. But if you look at the previous 10 matches, we were by far the better team. We should not have lost that match. And I think there was an element in me that thought, when you talk about going on to, did I think about the next 30 years? I actually thought we probably lost that match because of the emotional output.
Because of the emotional drain on you.
But it was a bit of a unique environment. We lost, brilliant effort by Arsenal, fabulous performance, pat them on the back. But this probably isn't a long-term thing that's going to affect us because because we'll come back stronger next year.
Yeah.
And okay, we did.
And you did. Yeah.
And you thought, well, that's it, back on track. I don't believe any genuine Liverpool fan or player even, who's in around that 1990 title winning team, if you'd sat them down and said to them, they'll not win the league for 30 years, I don't think they'd have believed. I'd have thought you were crackers if you'd said it. I really would have done. And of course, I think, that next season, I think we went first 10 games unbeaten. I think we were top of the league quite clearly the first 10 games next season. Business as usual. And then, for it to stop and finish was just astonishing. And I have a laugh actually in the office I've got a couple of big United fans in the office.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and when Fergie went, they've all had the bragging rights, and some of the younger ones, and I've said to them, first of all, I said, listen, I was in exactly your position, God knows how many years
in
ago.
1990, yeah.
We win the league, we win again, and we haven't won it again yet. You might find yourself in the same position. And they absolutely roared with laughter at me. Hey, they aren't laughing so hard now, I can tell you.
John, do you know why? Because let's just touch on this. The years fly by, don't they?
They fly by. And you can be out of the race, Kev. There's a lot of those years where we challenged, or we were in there. So you've got the excitement that we might do it this year. Then that year slips by. So that year's gone. Then there's other years where you think we're so far off the pace. We're rebuilding. We seem to constantly be rebuilding. So we're rebuilding, but we'll give it a go in a cup. Before you know it, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years go by. Say United get it right. Now, I think football's different now because there's certain clubs with a lot more money and they can United have got the power to probably propel themselves back there fairly quickly. But you wouldn't be surprised even if they get it right now, it takes them 3 more years. And then what are you up to? 10, 11 years since they've last won it?
Yeah.
The years just go so fast.
Yeah. Well, John, it actually
You've got
leads
it with
me into.
Arsenal. You've got it with Arsenal. Look
Listen,
at it.
Arsenal are in rebuild mode again.
Yeah.
Let's be
And
honest, it's rebuild.
this is what happens. And I think there's an element of luck in putting it right. And when you put it right, you've got to make the most of it. But I do think there's an element of luck of all the stars aligning and
Yeah.
get it right again.
Well, John, that leads me into the next question, which what do you think of the Jurgen Klopp era? Because Jurgen Klopp's come into your football club, and I think he's done a fantastic job. He has done a great job. What's your thoughts on the actual whole era? Because it started off a certain way, and the way it's kind of turned the ship round now. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
I mean, it's magical, isn't it, for a Liverpool fan? I mean, it's just, I think, 28, 27, 26 years Red Rose when he came in without winning a title, you don't expect anything particularly to change. You hope. I'm one, as you know, Kev, we've had a lot of chats about this. I'm not particularly on the Bash Brendan brigade. I thought he did for a long time a very good job. I think he had a set of circumstances that worked against him in that.
Well, you should have won it, John.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
I think then afterwards, with Suarez going and Stevie coming to the end of his career and Carragher, there are various things that I think would have been tough for any manager. And I think that job went to Brendan maybe a little bit too early. I think if he got it later on, he would have been a decent fit. But what I would say is with the Klopp era, I don't think you can just credit Klopp. I think you've got to also, a lot of people are still anti the owners, but they went for Klopp. They were ruthless getting rid of Brendan, and they only wanted one man. And from that point on, that the club have hardly put a foot wrong in terms of football and everything everything around that. To bring Klopp in, back him 100%, and then he has done everything perfect. And I think the biggest thing is you have certain managers, don't you, that just get the crowd. Liverpool is an incredibly emotional club. Big emotion around the city with it. And Klopp got that. And he fed into it and he feeds back to it. He's a natural fit. But some of the decisions he's made, getting rid of Phil Coutinho and bringing in Virgil and Alisson and things like that, he's just set it up. And now we're in a position where, I think maybe Man for Man City at their best are still the best. I don't know. Maybe they've gone down. But we're not far off it. And mentality-wise, what he's done is instilled a mentality that we go back to that 80s team where there's an arrogance where they just expect to win. And I think you go out on the pitch and they expect to win. And a lot of teams are beaten before they even step foot on the pitch against them. To think that we've got there after 20-odd years of stumbling about and blowing it, and I don't actually think we ever did blow it, but stumbling around and not getting there, to actually now get to a point where he's got a plan. And I think the biggest thing he's done is nothing is around big players. He's going out and buying a massive player, which I think United maybe have done over the last few years until now, and then try and put it all right that way. To me, he had a plan. And he said, I will buy players that fit that plan. And I think he still does that. He will not rush out and buy someone for the sake of it. They've got to fit the plan. And the way we work works. And you can almost slot a player out of that and slot another player in. That Barcelona comeback, we didn't have 3 or 4 of our big name players playing. Slot them in. They all know how to play the Liverpool Klopp way. And he's built, he's got the opportunity to build a dynasty. Now's our trick. Now is the trick to do what Liverpool previously have done, what United have done. Can you change the odd player? Can you refreshen it? Can you reboot it? Can you go? I don't think Pep's done that with City at the moment. I mean, he made it in the European Cup, but they sort of tailed off, I think, this year in the league. They need to refresh. Let's see if he can do that. But that's the challenge for Klopp. Are we a 2-season wonder? But to think he's come in, and that Atletico game, the last game, was the first 2-legged European tie he's lost since he came in, to get to a Europa League final, 2 Champions League finals. And, let's face it, any other time without that unbelievable City team, we'd have romped the league last season. And so to do that again, if we complete it this year at the sort of tight level that we look like we're going to, it's just magical. To be a Liverpool fan in this era, living through it as a kid, I'm going to make sure I make the most of it, because it can go as quickly as it comes.
Hey, I know you make the most of it, mate. Don't you worry about that.
Every day.
So, Simo, as an Arsenal man, I've got to ask you, what is it with you, this craze love of the European Cup / Champions League for Liverpool Football Club? How did it start? I remember back in the day watching the European games. The cop used to suck the ball in the net, man. It was crazy. What is it? Why is this? What is it with this love affair?
I think I said it before when I said about Klopp getting Liverpool. I think Liverpool is a very emotional, romantic type club. I mean, whatever you say, I'm a Liverpool fan, but you know that. I've heard ex-Arsenal, Thierry Henry says going to Anfield on a big night is just different gravy. And yeah. I've heard a lot of other players say that about the ground, that when it's pumping. I think that the European things built up. At the beginning, we wanted to win it. We were the best team probably in Europe at the time, the Dalglish years. Winning it twice was then such a big thing for a team from our shores to do, that built up an element of that we were almost representing, the country, and that it was our right to win it. And I think that romance means that those nights, I mean, I've been at so many Anfield nights, and they are spine-tingling, when you're there. It's the darkness of the night and the crowd going bananas. I think that transmits to the pitch. I was heard Craig Bellamy talking recently, actually, saying, I think before that the City tie where we beat and blew them away 3-0 at Anfield, and he was saying, City are probably the better team. But the problem in the Champions League is that, and he goes, the other thing is, the crowd almost have experience of the Champions League and European Cup, so they know when to really go hard at the players and make them and drive them on, when to be patient, so they don't transmit as much nerves as maybe other teams do, and they intimidate the opposition. So I think the crowd has a large part to play. I think you get something in your DNA, you keep winning it, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think Roger Federer has won Wimbledon probably when he hasn't been the best player, because people expect him to win it. I think Liverpool have built up that Real Madrid almost Bayern type mystique that you play them in the Champions League or what's European Cup, you're starting from a disadvantage because of their history. So I think the only thing you can say is the history weighs largely, and the way they play, support the crowd getting behind it. It's just such a big thing for Liverpool.
Simo, could you remember where you were when you made that comeback against AC Milan?
Yeah, I can actually. I didn't go to that game because I had small kids and all that sort of stuff. I was at home, and I was flying out the next day to Portugal on a family holiday.
Right.
And my son was only 4 or 5, and he was sat up. He was allowed to sit up to watch it with me, and he fell asleep on the sofa at half time. And it was almost like this is heaven. But I remember when we got the equaliser, I picked him up off the settee and threw him, and the wife screamed, "Watch the baby!" And I sort of threw him around, and he's like, "Oh!" So I was at home watching it. Right. Can I tell you a very funny story about Champions? Very quickly.
Hey, listen, it's nothing about it's funny, mate.
No, this was actually because the next morning we got picked up and taken to the airport to go on holiday, and I got chatting to a guy. When I got picked up, there's another guy who was dropping another cab driver, and I was waiting for the family to sort themselves out. And I got chatting to this guy, and he was like, "You look happy. You're a Liverpool fan." We're laughing and joking, and he'd come from Manchester, taken a fare from Manchester to the airport, and he said, "I'm going to tell you a funny story about last night." He said, "I'm not a Liverpool fan." So he said, "But it was a Champions League game final, so I watched it. I'm a big football fan, so I stayed watching it." He said, "And I didn't work." But he said, when it got to 3-0 down at half time, I thought, I'm ditching this. I'm going to go out and earn a few quid. I'm not going to waste my evening watching it. So he said, I went out. So I went to the local station, he said, picked up my first fare. He goes, and it was a Scottish woman. And he said, as I drove off, she said, "Why aren't you putting the final on?" He goes, "It's over, isn't it?" She goes, "No, it's coming to the end of extra time." He goes, "What do you mean extra time?" She goes, "It's 3-3. Put it on." He said, "I put it on. And as I drove around, we're both engrossed in it." He said, and I pulled up outside the house. She got out, she paid me. And she goes, "Are you going to get to see the penalties?" And he goes, "By the time I get to a town, park up, get to a pub, it'll be over." She goes, "Oh, never mind." Got out of the car. He turned around the car at the top of the road, came back down. She came out and waved him down. She said, "Come in." She goes, "My husband says come and watch it in our living room or in our kitchen with him." The husband was Alex Ferguson.
Yeah. That don't surprise me. Well, he was neighbours, weren't we? We were all neighbours, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I bet he was frying things at the telly, Sir Alex, wasn't he? He weren't happy about that one because you guys were always the yardstick. So, Simo, a bit of nostalgia, maybe. A bit of nostalgia. What was your favourite kit, John?
Yeah, do you know what, Kev? This is something that I've really got no interest in it. As in, I've never owned a kit in my life, right. Unless the kit for the team I've played for. I've never worn a replica kit or anything like that. I always think, you're not out playing the game, then why do you wear the kit? I've never owned one, so it's not a big thing for me. I'm not into them. The one that I would say sticks to my mind for some really weird reason is, do you remember the old, years ago, back in our day when we were growing up, we had a white one, with a white shirt with red trim, black
shorts and white socks.
White socks, that's right. It was almost a bit Germanic in the way it looked almost.
Yeah.
I like that. For some reason, I really like it, because I think we've had some shocking away kits down the years. I mean, that's what I would say, some shocking away kits down the years. But I think that one was, I like that simple, everything like that. That was probably my favourite kit.
Okay. So we've got 2 questions left, John, and we're going to go in now. What was it like meeting King Kenny?
Oh.
I had to bring that question out for you.
To be honest with you, Kev, you know, I've been very fortunate, and mainly through my friendship with you, I've met a tremendous amount of footballers, you know, both past and present, down the years, and you know, pretty much to a man, they've been decent people, and some of them I got quite friendly with, and they, you know, but obviously the King. And to the story very quickly was, I was on the train back up from London.
Yeah.
I remember I was coming back up from London after a meeting. I was sitting on the train coming out of Euston, and my phone went and it said Kev. So I answered, "All right, mate." And this thick Scottish accent goes, "All right." And I said, "Who's that?" It's Kenny Dalglish. Who's this?
Somebody's pulling my leg, yeah.
Yeah. So I did for a minute, and he goes, "No, it's Kenny Dalglish." So anyway, he said, "I've got a meeting with Kev tomorrow at a hotel near where I live. And a couple of other people. Would you like to come along? It'd be nice to meet you. Would you like to come along?" I was like, I'm off the train running there now. And I remember the next day, you and I drove there, parked up, went in, he walked in. You guys started talking about some of the stuff you wanted to talk about. And Kenny just looked at me and he goes, "So you're a Liverpool fan?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Should we have a coffee and have a chat?" 2 hours sat chatting to him about all things Liverpool. Him asking me my opinion on stuff. I'm thinking, this is Kenny Dalglish, you know. He was so passionate about Liverpool, so passionate about football in general, views on things. "What do you think, John? Did you think about this?" And then he goes, "Oh, have you ever had an injury and come back?" He said, "I was useless when I came back." He said, "All my sort of spatial awareness had gone. It took me ages to get my radar going. I thought, if you thought you were useless, Kenny, you should have come and watched me playing every now and again." He was absolutely. And then, do you remember when he left?
Yeah.
He goes out, bless him, get in his car, went, and there's a barrier at the car park. Next minute, he comes back across the coffee area where we were sitting. "I've got the code for you, lads." I mean, what an absolute gentleman. Just a humble. They say don't meet your heroes, but he surpassed anything you could have expected of him.
And John, I've got to lump on with that. You know, look, I know we have loads of banter, and I'm on the blue side and that, but listen, the Kenny Dalglish is an absolute legend and star. I can't speak highly enough of that man. And, you know, I know he had a bit of he was ill at one stage, wasn't he? He got coronavirus and he's all right now. And, you know, I said a prayer for him and stuff. But just a genuinely nice man.
Really, really nice. I've got to say as well, though, just to finish that you just mentioned that we have the banter, and particularly because, you know, up here, we live up here, probably I see more of your blues people than I do. Yeah. But, you know, I met a lot of the blues players through you, and they've all been gentlemen, really, really lovely people. But spent a whole afternoon evening with Bob Latchford, Sharpie.
That's right.
And a few of those boys, just really, really good guys. And of course, remember when we been a couple of times to the Emirates with you, went for a beer with Merson.
That's right. Grovesy and that, yeah. Nice, great people. I mean, a lot of the yeah, John, as you well know, a lot of the old players, they're just lovely, genuine guys.
Lovely people, yeah.
And they're used to mingling, aren't they? They're used to mingling with fans, so they're comfortable in that. But, you know, going back to King Kenny, Rush is the same. Ian Rush, legend, top fella as well.
Remember when I got his tie?
Yes, I do. After a derby, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, he goes walking out again. We were having a few beers, weren't we? And he was in there.
Hey, John, was that after another win?
Yeah,
it was after another win. Jeez.
And you were out chatting. He's a Liverpool fan, and he had a picture of me today. I've gone up my tie.
Yeah. Listen, you get where gas wouldn't you? RedNose John.
And you normally open the door to let me through.
And it's amazing, isn't it, being my mate? Anyway, look, we're getting to the last question, John.
Yes.
What are the 3 things you would change at Liverpool to make them better? 3 things.
Can you improve on perfection? Let me think about it. This is a difficult one.
I tell you what. Oh my God.
How do you answer that? I'll tell you what. One very serious one. If I could change anything about Liverpool, so the past and everything like that.
No, not the past. We're talking about from now moving forward. It's
Okay.
got to be.
Okay. I'd sign Tyrese Campbell. I'd have him up front. And I'd be at the next derby when he scores the winner going, look at Evan Campbell.
Go on, now you can sing it. Go on. You might as well let everybody know what you sing all the time. He sings that to me all the time.
Since the day one that's going to happen. So
you did tell me. You did tell me.
You did. Me or something actually, but we've got that. What would I change?
Because it's about now. It's about continuing your dominance, isn't it?
I was going to say I'd tie Klopp in long term. I'd like Klopp. I suspect Klopp's the type of guy who's very clear cut about his career, and he goes. My fear is that he will do a certain amount of time at Liverpool and go. People say he's got a big emotional attachment. We'll see. I think maybe he might want to run Germany at some stage. If I had my choice, I'd like Klopp to be our Fergie. So to build that dynasty and take that forward. What else I'd like to see is get more people coming through the academy.
Yeah, good shout.
Through, so we get some of these younger players coming out. We've got some great young players coming through now.
Some very talented boys, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see them get another opportunity. I'd like to overtake United's 19 league titles while still winning the Champions League. But no, overtake 19 league titles. And the one from the past I was going to say is, if I could have come back as an angel, I'd have gone on that pitch in '89 and whispered to Barnsley, trust me, Barnsley, history will tell you Rose Ed is not a bad option, pal.
Or go to the corner flag. Just go to the corner flag and kill the game.
There are a lot better options than what you're about to do.
Yeah, but John, look, this is what I would say. And again, I've got to give props to Liverpool. I don't do it often, but credit where credit's due. I was in the stand that day. I travelled up with the team in the morning. I was in the stand, etc. And when Arsenal ended up winning that game, Liverpool obviously were disappointed. But do you know what? The respect that the Kop and all the fans showed, clapping the team, etc. That boot room crew came in and gave the boys champagne and had a glass of champagne. I said, listen, any team that comes here and wins it here, by 2K, you guys deserve it. We'll have to get them back ready next season. But fair play to you guys. You boys were dominating for years. That's big respect, man.
And come raging into that game, on I think unbeaten run of 10 matches. Hammered West Ham the game before.
5-0 won it. 5-0 in the week.
You guys as well turned up with all the flowers. It was a really nice, touch to do that at the beginning of the game with to our fans. And I believe you were lucky because you got a flipping guard of honour out by the Everton fans, didn't you?
Yeah, down the East Lancs, mate. The big boozer on the East Lancs, they were doing the conga, giving us a good clap some night. It was brilliant, John. Absolutely brilliant. Well, John, look, that's the end of part 1 of your Who Are You, mate? And listen, it's been a pleasure, pal.
Absolutely enjoyed it. Really good fun.
Listen, I'll get you again very soon. And you know what? With a bit of luck, it'll be next season.
I'll have the
replica. You'll have your replica. Yeah. Little replica cup there, trophy there with you. All right, mate. Listen, John.
The 3 quarters of the season.
John, hopefully next season. Take care, John.
Cheers, mate. Great to talk to you. Speak soon,
mate. Bye, mate. Bye.